Hi guys, Mummer and Kid here, coming to you. How's everybody doing out there? As promised, as I said, I was going to talk about a show that a lot of people have asked me, do I watch? And I tell them all the time, yeah, I do. Well, how come you don't do reviews and everything like that? But with shows like this, I usually do what I've always set out to do. I do a series premiere and an overview of the entire season. So basically, this is going to be broken down into literally 4 parts, where I talk about the villains, I talk about the supporting characters, and the last part will be what I expect for next season, or what I hope will happen for next season. Okay, so yeah, you should already know that the show I'm talking about is Arrow. Um, so let's talk about this for a while. Um, when the CW basically said that there was going to be a show about based off the Green Arrow, I was pretty much not too skeptical, but I was also to the point I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll give it a whirl. I'm always an optimist. I'm always open to see if something will succeed. And I was just kind of, but then the back of me was like, I'm hoping that this doesn't fall into that category of what happened in Smallville. And finally got to see the first trailer, and I was like, it's a little dark. I'm like, Ollie's never been that dark before. I'm a Green Arrow fan. I've read plenty of Green Arrow comics over the years of my 30+ years of comic reading, and I've never seen him that dark. But then I started to realize that once hearing that who was behind the production company, Mark Guggenheim and all that, I knew once they said that they got their influence from Nolan's Batman. I was like, the curse of Nolan, Nolan's run. So they fed off of that. And I watched it over time, and I watched the season from beginning to start, and I was like, some episodes was like, and some episodes was like, okay, that was pretty decent. But I will admit that it was dark. But as my friend Pop Culture Diva 42 would say, it wasn't as dark, too gritty dark, like, say something like, Sin City or something like that dark. But it was to the point dark that we saw Ollie, take lives. He was taking lives. It wasn't as we were seeing the kind of the happy-go-lucky, Green Arrow, where he had the different kinds of arrows, like the knockout gas arrow, or the punching bag, the punching boxing glove fist arrow, things like that. No, he was taking people out to the point. He came off like more of a vigilante in terms of a mixture of Punisher and stuff, like, you have failed this city and things like that. And I was fine with that for a certain degree. But I did enjoy what I saw from the series. The series really progressed, I would say, after the episode Burnt with Firefly. That's where the series really started to pick up. And maybe even before that, because there was an episode that I really enjoyed with the Royal Flush Gang, and I was like, okay, that was a really good episode. But I really thought the series started to really catch its flow from, like I said, from a certain midpoint episode, instead of being just a countless array of episodes that made you go woo, woo, like going up and down, where you didn't really know where they were segueing or where this was taking this and everything like that. But it looked like from a while the series looked like it was going to focus more on Ollie knocking people off that list. They're all on the list, and that's Oliver's list, and he's fixing to go through all of them one by one, and that's where it looked like. I thought that was the whole series, first season was going to go. But you see the difference in between Stephen Albin's Oliver and Jason Hartley's Oliver. Though there were some similarities. For example, they both used a voice modifier so people wouldn't recognize their voices and everything like that. But I did, from a time, enjoy a lot of the fight choreography in there. I thought the fight choreography was really good in the series, from what it was. You know, they really had to explain more to me in terms of how Ali learned how to do all that stuff, how he was able to speak certain languages, because they kind of teased at that in the beginning of the season, and even when he came back to Starling City, which is not, they're not calling it Star City yet, it kind of was like, okay, how'd you learn all this stuff? Who taught you this? You know, we know in the comic wise, Oliver self-taught himself how to shoot an arrow, while he was on the island. So it was kind of interesting from that point of view of the seeing where the show was going to go. And to me, that was like a sheer amount of, okay, this is probably going to be a progression over every episode. And we started to see that. Some episodes would kind of focus on his trials and tribulations on the island, which was fine. I enjoyed that to a degree, and especially when they brought in certain characters into the island. That really made me focus a lot more on the show as a whole, and I enjoyed it. But like I said, it wasn't too dark. But I did, for time being in the beginning, was like, why are they going dark so quickly with this? Why are they so dark? It doesn't need to be this way, And then I started to realize, this is CW. They're gonna try to go for that, that dark and gritty tone to get the viewers of under 21 and up to get involved in the show. And to a certain degree, it worked for them. You know what I'm saying? It worked. It was a way of really getting over. And people would tell me, ask me, Chris, are you still keeping up with Arrow? And I tell them, yeah, all the time. If you ask me, I'll tell you. It's not like I'm not keeping up with the show. I would watch it every Wednesday. I would keep up on it, and I enjoyed what the product they gave us over time. I enjoyed the supporting characters. They didn't really force the love triangle. And don't get me wrong, guys, I'm a sucker for a good love story. Okay, I'm a very lovable and sucker for that kind of stuff. I'm not gonna deny that. But when you start shoving it down our throats, like CW does have a tendency of doing with the love triangles or between the two lovers or ex-lovers and stuff, then I'm like, okay, you turn me off now with that. And we kind of saw that with Ollie and Laurel at a time, but not as much. But they would bring it up when need be, in my opinion. But then, then they would bring up the love triangle like that. So I was fine with that. People always ask me, the one thing was like, when is Laurel going to become Black Canary? Is that really? Because yes, that is Black Canary's name is Lance. But that's her mother's name instead. But I digress, basically. But yeah, I was like, I don't really see them making her, that at all. The costume. Let's talk about that as in the first part of this. I did not mind Ollie's look in this. I didn't mind it too much. I know it was more of a, he's wearing, I guess you could say, leather pants and almost like a tracksuit jacket with a hood and gloves on it to give him that and to give him like the green look. But I, for one, was quick to say, you know what? He's got to put some kind of mask on. Even if it is the stereotypical domino mask. He can't go around with just his hood on and in a fight. Somebody easily just, in a fight, I'm surprised nobody literally didn't just go, just, take his hood off and they be like, hey. I mean, it just kind of gave me that question of like, he could easily uh get the mask taken off. And we saw that in there, and then they started to put like he had, and then from there, guys, it started to fall into that category of what I thought about the show, The Cape. Remember that show? He wore a cape, and it was like, why is he not wearing a mask? And then he finally put a mask on, but still, didn't last long. But in this, they put like he had like I guess you could say war paint, like, across his eyes, and I was like, all right, but still, no. And I guess that's the reason why most of his action took place at night, to kind of give that a vision of like, okay, well, he's fighting, but he's got a mask, so you can't really see his face, even if you're trying to squinch in the dark. But yeah, I didn't mind that too much, but I would assume that hopefully maybe sometime, and maybe next season or so, or if they get another season, he starts to wear maybe the Domino mask, or even the goggles, in a sense, that he's wearing kind of now in the comics. Um, Maybe even go sleeveless with his costume now, but I don't think so, because if I remember correctly, Ali has a tattoo. I think it's on his arm or it's on his chest, but still, I would like to see them kind of vamp up the costume a little bit more, and I'll get into that a little bit more later on. But overall, the series was good to me. It had its weak points and it had its bad points, but overall, it was a steady flow of goodness, in my opinion, that wrapped up pretty nicely. And boy, did it wrap up pretty nicely. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it, even though it's like 3 days old now. The season 1 finale was 3 days ago or so. But yeah, I'm not going to spoil it, but it wrapped up pretty nicely. I really enjoyed what I saw from the series, and it was over the course of the season, I would say it was overall good. Um, Pretty much, very very much over the top, pretty good. Uh, I really had no really. I kind of had my doubts about the show from the start. Like, I'm not sure. But I think as fans, we're gonna be like that. We can't. Because there's only so much time you have with the small screen. Television is totally different from the big screen, movie-wise, and production, everything like that. So everything's got to be moving a little quicker. So, it was like, okay, uh, but overall, I thought the season was pretty damn good. That's just me. You don't have to like my opinion. Your opinion counts, in my opinion. Where for me it counts. That's why I do these things for you guys, to hear what you guys thought about the overall season. Overall, if I was to give it a number, overall, I would give it a solid 7. There we go. That's a good number. Out of 10, that's a good number. Um, so yeah, I thought it was good. Um, Pretty much, yeah. I thought, and as for Mr. Amell, who played Ali, he could work on a little bit of his emotional, in terms of showcasing a little bit of emotion, because he has a tendency, like when he looks at you, he's just like really blank stare, or even when he turns around, his whole head doesn't turn around. It's just like his whole body has to go, and then he looks at you, like, okay, that's about it. But I thought he was okay. But part 1 is down. I move on, guys, to we're gonna go with the villains. How did I like the villains and things like that? And I'll see you guys in a few.